My first slide, this is bank-owned properties. And I'm trying to get a brand, but I use Claude and I use AI. And the reason I didn't actually use AI to try to find someone to look up properties is I tried and it doesn't work. Like I actually need a human being to kind of like go research. They can research at the end, but they can't research in the front end. So if anybody's here who's really good, maybe we can come up with something. You know what I mean? That would save me a lot of time. But at this point, I still manually go through these websites. I have a spreadsheet. I put everything on there and I go back and I look at it. So I haven't figured that out yet. So maybe someone can figure it out. I'm a licensed realtor broker in California, Nevada, still active license, although full-time I invest. I'm at the point where I don't even want to deal with buyers and sellers. So the person I deal with is me. I'm a buyer and I'm a seller. I flip my own properties right now. I mean, I literally just put it on Zillow and I sell things. I figured a way so I can also help you do it yourself, meaning I've got combo locks and stuff. I put it on the door, they contact me. So, that's what I keep myself busy most days is I never go see any of my properties. I sit right here in front of my desk and I look everything on the computer. But I've been self-employed since 2001. So, I don't have a W-2. I don't have anything to fall back on, except doing this. And I'm doing this to plan my retirement and have passive income. Okay. But if you guys are here, trust me, it ain't going to happen in 1 year. People were like, oh, I like to retire in 1 year. I haven't bought anything. I want $5,000 a month cash flow. I'm like, good luck. I'm still on year 3. I'm still trying to get that. And I'm somebody with experience. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know. I think people bullshit all the time. You'll see me. I'm very straightforward, honest. I will tell you exactly how it is. I don't sugarcoat anything. So you can appreciate that. That's who I am. That's how I do business. So how am I authority to teach this? I've been in the industry. I was a loan processor. So in 2001, I got laid off from Hewlett Packard, got recruited into an MLM company, got my license. 2008, I bought properties. There was no online social media. I had no clue what I was doing. Okay. All I know is there was negam loans and my multi-level marketing was like refinance, cash out, buy properties. So that was in 2005. I cashed out refinance my parents' property. So I had about $350,000 to play with, and I wanted to buy property, retire them. I had no clue what the heck I was doing. Okay. I'm just going to tell you guys that. I wish I had somebody like me to show me. But long story short, March of 2008, the market crashed. I had anxiety, went to the doctor, told him what happened. He gave me Prozac. And I was just like, what the heck, but I lost 10 properties in Florida, North Carolina, Arizona, California. Anyway, 10 properties went to foreclosure and I became a short sale expert because why? I ended up short selling my own properties. So 2012, no, 2008 to 12, I became a short sale specialist. That's all that was out there in the market at the time. So I know how to negotiate with the bank. 2008, I met my husband. He's in mortgage lending, but I'm also a loan officer. So, okay, I understand that side of the doing loans. I got my license in Nevada. So at the time in 2012, it was very hard to get into REOs, meaning I wanted to sell and list them, but you can only get in if you worked for a broker that was doing REOs. So 2017, my husband went to work for Carrington Mortgage Services. If you know them, they're a large servicing company. So most of you understand what a servicing company does? No? Okay. So when you buy a house, oh, I'm sorry, everybody. I want to speak to you like you're brand new and you don't know anything about, bank-owned properties. So forgive me. That's what I'm going to talk to you like you don't know. But when you get a loan, usually the lender then right afterwards you close, they sell it to somebody else in the secondary market, and then they service your loan. So I know some of you might not own a property, but each month you get a mortgage statement and you send your payment into that company. They're the ones servicing your loan, right? So, and these servicers, they're collecting your payment. And so when you fall behind, you get a notice of default, which is usually about 90 days. Then they start doing the process of trying to, foreclose. I guess they'll foreclose on you. And these servicers get once the home forecloses, they take it back and then they now market to sell it on. So this is where kind of I come in too, because it now becomes an REO, real estate owned or a bank owned property. Okay. So I couldn't get any REOs at the time. So I joined Carrington Mortgage Services. They had a real estate division. And that was my beginning of being a REO listing agent. So when the bank took back the property, they have agents within their office, and then they would say, hey, Jennifer, we would like for you to list this property for the bank and find a buyer. Okay. In 2017, I don't even know when Zome or auction.com, those are the companies I'm going to talk about later as the auction platform. So I got in, started, selling these properties slowly. And then I think in 2019, I thought there would be a market crash. And I'm like, yes, there's going to be a lot of bank-owned properties come on. And it still didn't happen. And then you get 2020. Okay. Then everybody goes crazy and bids 50,000 over ask price. I remember I was living in Las Vegas, and then I had a client in California. And then I ended up driving back to Southern California, and we made 12 offers, each of them 50,000 over asking price. And they didn't get it. And like 12, I think I went back 4 weekends to try to show a house. So I just didn't get, well, I'm sorry, my brain fart here. So anyways, no crash. There's no crash. However, and then COVID happens, right? And then you see the prices keep going up and up. And then I for sure thought all these forbearance was going to cause the market to crash. And so June of 2022 is actually when interest rates went up from 3% to 5%. Like I think there was one that they have never had it before where rates just shot up. Okay. So then now you almost have it flat. Still slow. I joined Sub2 in April of 2023. At one point I was I had a listing in Las Vegas, and they had me put it on Zome.com. It was like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath townhouse. And I swear, I thought it should have sold for higher. And when I'm an agent and it goes on these auction websites, I don't do anything. I just sit and wait. People bid, and then they notify me and go, look, someone made an offer. Now you need to just help it along the way. And then that's when it dawned on me that the person that bought this property on Zone.com bought it for like 250, right? And it was worth 320 or something like that. So I said to myself, I'm like, wait a minute, this is a really low price. Why I should have bought it. I should have found an investor to buy it. So I think right there at that moment, I realized I should have been buying these properties for myself. Okay. So anyway, I started to buy my first REO property was in October of 2023. So since then, as of today, I just went on my spreadsheet. I've won 18 REO bidding on 4 different auction platforms. Okay, so am I, what is it? Do I have an authority to teach you about this? I would say yes. Okay, so that's kind of why you're here. I don't see anybody else teaching this. I see some videos on YouTube, people saying buying it, but they buy it, but not from the standpoint of being an agent listing REOs as well. And what I found out was when you work for the bank, there's different departments and they all don't know what the other person is doing. So I was able to put this together with that together because even as an agent, I don't know what the other people is are doing, you know. And so I want to share in some of the other videos how I actually have an advantage. So I'll still have an advantage over you guys in a sense, you know, I have keys. I know how to get in the property, but I can't share that because they'll probably like, I don't know. I have to be careful about that. So that's why I have an authority to be able to speak on this. Um, so here's this. Well, I buy REOs because I'm the listing agent and it gives me a front row seat other investors don't have. So when I joined Sub 2, I did try to buy things Sub 2 as well, but um, I don't know. I couldn't do it. I tried to do one here was an FHA loan. I tried to make an offer, but I think what was happening was home prices started to go up. Okay. And I I don't like that. And this is what my husband told me because I was trying to explain to him. And he said, the seller is in breach of contract. So I know Pace always says, is it illegal? No, but you do have a contract with the bank. They make you, you know, you sign a loan, you're supposed to pay on it. Now you're trying to sell it to somebody else and they get on title. I just didn't like that, you know, your seller is still there. So yes, interest rate is low, but you have to have an exit strategy that made you enough money. And then you're offering a seller a little bit more money and then giving them their full price. Okay. So I just didn't like it. Bottom line, I probably didn't like it because I couldn't do it. I couldn't get a deal. You know, there was one where I almost did a subject to, and it was 5,000 entry fee, but then the seller went somewhere else. So that was it. So then I was looking, I ended up, so I was looking in Las Vegas and um, one of the tenants in a bank-owned property that I got. Now I have to go there and I have to verify if there's a tenant inside the property or someone occupying the property. I have to offer them cash for keys on behalf of the bank. Okay. So there was one person in there. I was shocked because the bank was offering $12,000. This was zoned to get them out. So I told them, hey, uh, here's $12,000. Can you move in 2 weeks? They're like, heck yeah, I'm getting out of here in 2 weeks. Gave them 12,000. Then she was telling me, I go, do you need to buy a house? Now you got $12,000. If you need to go buy a house, I can sell you a house. And then she said, oh, well, actually, I own two houses in Detroit, Michigan, you know, and I bought it for like 15,000. And now it's COVID. I make, you know, $1,800 in rent. And I'm like, wow, $15,000 and you get, you know, so they, it kind of intrigued me. And then she started telling me she's from Ohio and homes didn't appreciate and they're worth $30,000. So if many of you are not from the Midwest, those are the home prices that are out there right now. Okay, so this is where I invest. I'm in the Midwest. I'm in Southern Indiana. I'm in Ohio. I'm in Alabama, Kentucky. Okay, so for me, REOs, you own the property outright. It's a clean title and no lingering seller. So what has happened with sub two is that people buy it, then they sell it on a rack, and then their buyer doesn't pay them. They have no skin in the game, and they have a seller who, if the mortgage didn't get paid, they're screwing up the seller. You see what I'm saying? I'm pretty ethical. I don't want, that's why I said I don't want a lingering seller and I don't want a buyer who's supposed to pay me and don't pay me. And if you know, we have some people with buying way too many of these subject to properties and then now not being able to uh, make the mortgage payments. So in essence, you just screwed the seller like a second time or something. Okay. So when a bank takes the property back, which is at the point of the share sale or the trustee sale, all the liens get wiped out. Okay. Can you guys, I know I talk fast because there's a lot to say. Am I going too fast for you? No? Yeah, time is money. I talk really fast, okay? So, um, and then you have 30 days to purchase the property once you win the bid. So title still goes and does their search and stuff like that. And you can fund the purchase with a hard money or private money loan. Now, a lot of people ask me, oh, don't you have to have cash? These guys on these auction websites say it's cash, but you don't need to have cash. When you do need cash or a cashier's check is when you buy at a trustee sale, meaning you go to the courthouse and you buy it there. But these days, you really don't physically have to be at the courthouse. You can buy through an online website. So they do allow you to buy, but it's still, you need cash, cashier's check once you win that bid. But when you buy those, so at the bottom here, you can see this at a sheriff's sale. In California, they call it a trustee sale. Okay, so some states are judicial and some states are non-judicial. I probably won't get into that because some of you may know what it is, some of you don't. But when you buy at a sheriff's sale, you must bring a cashier's check. There's no financing at the auction. Buyer's responsible for evicting any occupants after the sale, if there are still occupants. I buy in red states because most of them are landlord friendly. Okay, California, if some of you know, squatters, they're sitting in there, they don't care if it's foreclosed. Now you've got to pay them a lot of money. And even if they're not squatters, if they're living there and you want to sell the house, you literally have to pay them money for how many years they've been there to get them out. So it's very important what state you choose because you want to be able to evict the person if you choose to buy a property with a tenant inside. It may be so good and the spread is big that is it's worth it. In Indiana, I had one tenant who's decided to stop paying, and this was because I bought a fourplex on the market. It wasn't an REO, but I filed paperwork beginning of October, went to court on October 17. Judge says you didn't pay. Okay, you're out October 25th or something. So that plays a very important role if you have to evict someone. Okay. So I got them out. There was another property that was bank owned and there was a tenant. We offered her 500 bucks and then she didn't get out fast enough. Well, then the sheriff came to get her out because the bank sent somebody. Then I saved myself $500. We didn't have to evict her. Um, and then if you buy at the sheriff's sale, you have to verify if there are any other liens on the property. So it just doesn't get cleared once you buy it. Okay. So that's why I don't buy at a sheriff's sale. Okay. So this is building your buying foundation. Before you bid on anything, get these fundamentals locked in. If you've heard Pace talk, he always says, go out and get an LLC. Why do we have an LLC as an investor or for anything? Because there's two things. That is to protect you and when you have on title, nobody knows who you are. So for example, I'm talking to everyone as an investor. If you rent the property out, it's not in your name. Something happens to you. People want to sue you, but you have an LLC. This is another angle. I mean, I went down this path too because I know how to form an LLC. I have a holding company that is out of Wyoming. That is my holding company. Then it owns all of my other LLCs in every other state. Okay. And if you even want to go further, your revocable trust owns your holding company, and then your holding company owns your other LLCs in each state. Okay. So I'm just adding, I guess, my 2 cents so you guys can understand. And every property you own, if you're starting out, they do say, each LLC own an actual property, but now taxes is another story, okay? Because you have asset protection and then you have taxes, two different things. So that's all I'm gonna say about that for now. But, um, you know what? I'm sorry, I went ahead of myself. So when you're buying these REOs, you wanna figure out what your exit strategy is. Then you work backwards. So maybe you don't know yet, but you want to think about it. So when I say an exit strategy, are you buying to hold or are you flipping? And then if you're buying and holding, another exit strategy means, is it going to be a long-term rental, short-term rental, mid-term rental, sober living, co-living? That's what I mean by that. Like, what do you want to do? I've been doing this for 3 years now. I started with midterm rental, then I went to co-living, and then now I'm at sober living. But maybe some of you will start because I started by a 2 bedroom, 1 bath. Okay, and I'll get to why, because I started small. Here's what's happening to a lot of people. Oh, I just want to learn investing. You go in and buy an RV park. What the heck? You know, it's like huge. So you start small. It's just like when you're a baby, you just start to crawl. You don't even run yet, right? You crawl. So that is the decision you have to make. What is your exit strategy? And then pick your target market. You know, a lot of people go, oh, I want to, and it's okay if you do this, but I was living in California, then I moved to Las Vegas. Then I realized even Las Vegas is, even a long-term rental is too expensive. Rents are $2,000, but the home prices are 400,000. Now, if you're going to occupy your property as a primary residence, it makes sense to buy that high. So wherever you're at, and if like Florida, I know Florida went up in price because everybody moved there during COVID, right? Insurance, I avoid Florida and I avoid Texas. Why? Because insurance is too high. That eats up into my profit. So let me go back to that person in that I met that was a tenant in that REO. She said she had property in Detroit. So it landed me in Detroit. That's kind of how I ended up in the Midwest. And then from there, I jumped over to Evansville, Indiana. So I'm all in this market because I can buy something at $50,000. Okay, so that's kind of how I landed there. But don't think you just want to buy where you are at so you can go and see it. I always make this analogy. Do you go buy stock and be next door to the stock that you buy? You know, no. So if you're going to buy a property, it has to be a number. It's always a numbers game. Do the numbers work? Do you understand how it works, right? So that's why you pick your market. Um, then again, back to buy and hold or flip. Well, if you're planning to flip, it's a different strategy, and you can buy a little bit higher because you know you're going to flip it. But I did, as I was writing this, so I said buy and hold. There's a max purchase price so that the rents can support if you're buying and holding, right? They always say no matter what, at the end of the day, make sure you still cash flow, at least break even as a long-term rental. Okay, that's why I had to start at midterm rental to make more money. Even though my properties, I already take out all my cash. I already get all my cash and then I still cash flow. But I did midterm rentals. And I think if you guys know, short-term rental Airbnb is kind of like out the door right now. Okay, nobody wants to, people are not renting it. I follow, you know, I'm in Airbnb or short-term rental Facebook groups, and I hear people having problems. The platforms, um, the platforms, Furnish Finder and stuff, Airbnb, they're charging their hosts a lot more money. So it's eating up into the profits. Okay, so you have to pay attention to that. And let me see here. So I put flip. Rents don't drive your numbers directly, but know them anyway. So if you cannot flip it, you may need to refinance and hold it instead. So I may flip in California because there's still people, crazy people out there who live out there and buy a house, but the profit margin is huge. But then so is the purchase price. You know, you can still buy a dump out there and it's 500,000. Now, I did just learn something where California passed, and it was specifically in San Jose, um, ADUs. And now the ADUs can have their own APN number, and then you can sell it off as another parcel. Does that make sense? So if you have a land right now in San Jose and it's big, you can, partition it and build ADUs, build it brand new, and their brand new build is like 300,000. I think you can slap on a manufactured house or something like that, 1,200 square feet. So that's what I would probably want to do an REO in California to flip. Okay, so again, these numbers are different depending on what your strategy is. So I tell people, if you're new, start small. I'm experienced and I still start small. Literally, I'm buying something for 250,000 now. I'm freaking out because I've only bought things at $50,000. Because why? Buy small. If you mess up, it's okay. You know, you're not going to lose everything. You might not get out of the real estate game. Okay. If you start small, you can use your own savings, private money lending. Maybe you have a 401k you can liquidate. I want to share right now, there's HELOCs. And I'm going to, of course, be biased. I'm going to share my husband, he's a lender. He has up to 90% LTV for HELOCs on your primary residence and your investment properties. They're AI driven. It's like they do a soft pull and then they check how much deposits you have made in your bank account, and then it'll tell you how much you qualify for. And then if you agree and pick the options you want, like what kind of rate you want to pay and how much you want to pay for it, you can get funded in 5 days. So I'm sharing that because some of you are going to be like, how do I get money? And I'm talking to people who might have a property or something, because if you just leave your equity sitting in your house, yes, it's paid off. I came from Dave Ramsey, so trust me, I know. But I also listen to Robert Kiyosaki. So depends on what you do with your debt. Are you going to try to make it grow for you? And this inflation. So over time, you can see home prices keep going up. But if you buy real estate, you're kind of okay. So, but you just have to be careful how you do this. So I have a lot of debt, but when I take my money out, I'm buying more real estate. I'm not buying a car. I'm not remodeling my kitchen and stuff like that right now. I'm buying real estate with it. But when you buy property, so my first property was $65,000, and then it was worth about, what was it worth about? 120 at the time. And then I know what my renovation cost is. So when you go get a bridge loan, most lenders will only, they have a minimum of $100,000 loan. So a lot of people, especially when they're in Detroit buying, I want to call it a dump. They used to give away these properties. And just because you can buy the property for $5,000, does that mean you should? Because it might cost $100,000 to renovate it. And then it just doesn't work that way. You have to look at the overall. Getting a property cheap doesn't mean you should get it, because you have to always check the comparables and see what the after repair value is. But so lenders will loan minimum 100,000, but if you buy for 55,000 and it needs about 44,000, then when you add both of them together, you'll be over $100,000. Now, I've noticed, or most of my deals, the hard money lender after fees and points still going to cost you $8,000 to $10,000 on top of it. So there's only 3 numbers you need to know: what the property costs, how much to renovate it, and what the ARV value is. Right? That's all you need to know. Um, sorry, guys. And so when I say go small, you could self-fund these deals, because when you are getting the bridge loan to help renovate the property, you have to also come up with it first, and then they give you money back on the draw. And I've started to realize a lot of people used to run off with the money, and then contractors run off with your money. So these hard money lenders got smarter too. Um, they make you upload photos and videos on an app at the location, and then based on that app, they know what location you're at. So you're not, I just had another investor say she's filing bankruptcy because the contractor ran away with $500,000. Now she has to file bankruptcy. So that's how bad and big. They are very careful. They're not just going to give you money, even though you took a loan out and they're holding your money. You just have to be. Sorry, guys, I just went off a tangent. Anyways, buy small, learn, do it over again. I'm on my 18th, and now I finally just bought one for 258,000. So I started at 55, now I'm up to 258,000 because I haven't lost money on any of my deals yet. So that's where I can say I've been very conservative in my purchase. And I think everybody just gets so excited. I got a newbie, I'll see in sub too. They're like, yeah, I got a house, it's $500,000. I'm like, 10% of 500,000 is still 50 grand. I'm buying 55,000 for the whole purchase. You know what I mean? But after I force appreciation, that's why what we're doing here is this is force appreciation. This is why you are able to, after you renovate it, you're going to get a higher value. Okay. Okay. So here's something important too. So if you don't have capital, you're a newbie, you're 23 years old, you don't even can't even get a loan to buy because you haven't had a 2-year history for a job. How do you buy property? Number one, you could do a hard money. Some lenders require a minimum of 640 credit score. Okay. No foreclosures allowed on your record. I've gone through 6 hard money lenders when I started off. I wanted to see who was good, and I'm checking around. You know what? They all the same, okay? It's just who charges you more money, how many points and how many fees. They all say the same thing. And when you're interviewing these guys who say I can do DSCR, I can do hard money, freaking half of them don't even have a license. They just started, and then they dump their fees on, and then so anyways, if you work with me, I at least can share with you who to go to, because again, that is the key. They all charge the same money. At the end, it's how much they charge you for fees. And I always vet them. I'll ask them how long they've been doing this. Do they own properties themselves? Hold on, guys. Let me. Okay, so I basically, again, was trying to find out who's good, who's not, who should I take it to. A lot of the times you'll see that most people, it's all about communication. They don't communicate with you. And that's for anything. If you want to be a good salesperson or whatever, you got to have communication. And so I've gone through 6 already, okay? Each one can do different. I even have a brick and mortar lender. So I've gone through all this because I'm constantly buying it at hard money, and then you have to go DSCR to refinance it out. Okay. Um, just recently, I found a lender that doesn't pull your credit, has a desktop appraisal, and then no charges on the draw. What I mean is when you go and get your draw for the renovating, some places charge you $255 every time you do a draw. So now that this company doesn't charge draws, I'm like, it's every Tuesday and Friday, okay? And they wire the money directly into the account. I'm having it sent directly to my contractor. So I save $20 on my wire fees. I don't know how to tell you. This is huge, okay? Because the other ones, I would limit my draws, make sure I do 3 or 4 draws, and it's $210 every draw. So this lender I found, I will share it later, but no desktop, I'm sorry, no appraisal either. Guess what? That appraisal costs $700-800 for the hard money lender to see if this house is worth them lending it to you. Okay, they do a desktop. That's what I mean. Desktop, what's desktop mean? Sit on the computer and just research. So the most common funding is cash, hard money, or private money loans. And as I was doing this, here's another thing you could do. 0% business credit cards. You need a 780, I mean, you don't need it, but you should have it, 780 FICO score. You can get 0% business credit cards that are 12 months, 18 months. Now, before, people don't know this, they think it's a cash advance. It's not. There's ways to liquidate the credit cards. So when I first started, I have to laugh because I remember we had equity in our house, but my husband said, no, go find money yourself. So I'm like, okay. I went and pulled personal credit cards. I found somebody else, it was $3,000, and he went and applied all these credit cards for me, 0%, got me $108,000. It was great until I realized after I utilized max, my score went down to like 640. So it took me 2 years to pay it all off to get my score back up. And then right after I liquidated those cards, someone said, why didn't you do business credit cards? And I'm like, I didn't know, but it was too late. I had liquidated the cards. There's somebody I know, again, it's not free, but you pay them, they know where to go to apply for cards because that is their expertise. You have to pay people sometimes for their expertise because can you learn how to do it yourself? Yes, but do you know which banks to go to that you can get the credit cards? It's no. So now I have business credit cards because why? When you maximize these credit cards, you are a personal guarantor, but it doesn't show up on your personal credit card after you. So, for example, I got a credit card for $30,000. I've already liquidated, and I liquidated to pay the contractors. So you can do that. You can pay through PayPal and stuff like that. But if I maxed it at 28%, $28,000, when these lenders are pulling my credit to do a DSCR loan, it doesn't show up on my personal credit. You guys get that one? That's why business credit card is so important because you're maximizing these credit cards, but your score stays high. So I'm ranging 780 right now at all times, 780. And now I can get these DSCR loans without my score being affected. Okay. So if right now you're starting out, you have good credit, you have very low utilization, you can get the business credit, and then you buy $50,000 properties. You can still utilize the hard money lender too with a 10% down or 20% down. You can still do it. But if you try to attack a $500,000 purchase price, 10% or 20% down becomes just a lot more money that you have to use, okay? So before you bid, this is what you need to do first. I'm going to get into it in another module, but let's say you win the bid, the auctioneer or like let's say auction.com is where you're bidding on. They give you 24 hours to do what is called a summary checkout. I bid for other people all the time. I used to do it as an agent. So I would go on there and put the buyer's name. So you could put yourself as the buyer, or you could bid for somebody, else, but the checkout is what will go on the contract, the purchase contract. They give you 24 hours. And if you don't fill it out And if, you know, you don't complete this transaction, you're going to get blacklisted and stuff. So you don't want to just bid and go, oh, I didn't win. I mean, I won, but I'm not going to go through. I have an impeccable record because they know I know how to bid and I follow through. Okay, so I'll get into that. But the reason I'm bringing this up, you only have 24 hours. So you need to get a loan pre-approval first, because when you check out, they ask you, are you going to pay in cash or you have a hard money loan? Then you need a pre-approval letter, not a LOI or anything like you guys wholesalers out there. You know, there's none of that. There's no fake letter from, you know, I mean, you could have a fake letter, but at the end of the day, you still need to close. So you need to get a pre-approval letter first. And this will be in your LLC. You can buy it in your name, but once you fill out the summary in whatever entity or name, that is what will stay. You can't go, I've done it myself too. I still test this and they're like, no, we do not. They won't change the contract out to put somebody else's name on. This is very important to understand. I tried it again, even though I know better. I did it, it didn't work. This is when I was a listing agent for these REOs. I'd get these offers from wholesalers. They're like, please, I can now assign this to somebody else. I'm like, heck no, you're not assigning it to anybody. You're buying this property. You are going to do a double closing. I take it back. You guys can actually buy this and do a double close. All right. So I've gotten into the whole stacking, transactional funding and stuff. I can help with that. But you must close on the first leg. And if you want to wholesale this deal, then have a second escrow open. Okay. So there is a way to, I call it wholesaling, but it's a double escrow. Okay. Now I've done this and it's funny because people go, oh, I've worked with other people that told me, Jen, your deals are even way better than wholesalers. Because you know why? Wholesalers add an assignment fee. But these deals here is really, really discounted and it's still even better than wholesale. So I guess if anybody who's in here as a wholesaler, you can actually do this and still make some good money. But why? You can own these properties yourself. You know, most people, when I refinance, I get my money back out and I actually have cash. So I'll show you how to do that. That's how I've been able to like live off of these deals, because I get all my money back out on the refinance. And this is why I say, whatever you put in, you can get it out. Okay, because I'll buy these 40% on the dollar. You know what I mean? This is how deep it is. So set up your LLC, and then once you set up your LLC, you need a bank account. Most title companies, and well, I shouldn't say that most, my title company, I use them because they know me and I don't have to keep sending out paperwork. They require me to put the EMD or my down payment fund must funnel through my LLC's bank account. Okay, so if you try to wire money from your personal bank account and your LLC is the entity buying it, they will give you your money back. Okay, so need your LLC set up. I can teach you how to do that as well. It's not very hard. I initially went with PCS, paid them freaking $500, then realized it's like 60 bucks. Wyoming is 60 bucks to set up, annual fee, you know, so anyways, but you can do things yourself. I even have instructions how to do this because I started showing other people that I partnered with. So don't worry about that, but you need to set it up, okay? And then before you bid, you need to have boots on the ground. So remember, I said earlier, you gotta know where you wanna go buy, because you can't bid and then say, hey, or win the bid, and then, hey, I'd like to go check the property inside. It doesn't work that way. You got to go check it out first. Drive by. I will show, there's another video I'll show you how to look, you know, at a property, because again, I'm an REO listing agent. I have to scope these properties out too when the bank forecloses, because it's my job to see who lives in it. So if somebody does live in it, I have done this on one deal. I went ahead and got it because there was $100,000 equity in the property, but somebody was living in it. So we got it for 69,000. And so cross our fingers, it didn't need that much work, but it was worth 180,000. We bought it with a tenant, didn't go inside to see it. Okay. So you have to have someone that can drive by the property. I don't buy properties without getting inside to look at it. How do I get in? That's going to be another module to tell you how to get in the property, okay? So get financing lined up first, not after you find a property. And it's easy. You use the same letter for every property afterwards, okay? But most lenders, what they do want to know, I guess, is, you know what? I already found the guy, the company, so technically they don't even pull your credit. So, but you just want to know that you have different options because at the end of the day, once you go and do a DSCR loan, they will pull your credit. Okay, the first leg you can skip, but you need the second leg. Um, so if you're going to go to a lender, they want to see that you've had 3 flips and a refinance is considered like another deal done within the last 36 months. Okay. Why? Because you know what? They don't want to lend to somebody who doesn't know what the hell they're doing. They don't want to lose their money too. If they loan to you and you can't pay, they go into foreclosure. You have no clue what you're doing. So yeah, lenders, if you loan money to somebody, don't you want to know? I see it all the time. People here asking for private money lending, and then they don't even vet the person they're loaning it to. Me, nobody asked me. I'm like, hey, here's my history, here's my experience. I give them everything, like because that's who I am. I want to make sure that they're loaning money to me again later. So you have to have multiple people loaning you money. Why? Because that's the only way you can buy more than one at a time. Otherwise people's funds are sitting in here. You got to wait 3 to 4 months. So, anyway, sorry, back to that's what lenders look at. And when you're brand new, like me, I started out putting 20% down on my first flip because I didn't have the experience in the last 36 months. That's the key. Did you buy anything the last 36 months? Not 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It's the last 36 months. Now, I have vouched for other people, like other students that I've worked with who want to partner with me. I said, look, I'm teaching this guy how to buy Banco properties. They're like, okay. Even though he charged me 20% in the beginning, he let the person get away with 10% down because I've already established. They know what I'm doing. I buy this, I pay them off in like 3, 4 months. They know I know what the heck I'm doing. So they're allowing me to bring in other people and only put 10% down. Okay. But just so you know, I did 20% myself too. Um, but anyways, I think just like in general, when people buy a house for themselves, they like to go look at houses first and they're like, I like that house. Then they go get financing and then they lock the house. Okay, so same thing here. I was just saying how important it is get the financing lined up and then go make your bid. So I'm gonna go to this property. I don't know if you guys are all in the Facebook group that I created, but I posted this today. This is a property in Jeffersonville, Indiana, southern Indiana. It's like 20 minutes across the bridge to go to Louisville, Kentucky. This was property number 13 that I purchased. So if you want, you can go back to the photo. I posted a before and after photo. This is after photos. It's a 5 bedroom, right down here. 5 bedroom, 2 bath. Actually, let me start here to give you numbers so you can see. I bought it August 29th, 2025. Okay, so it's almost a year. My contractors drove from Evansville over here. It was 2 hours. I found out that they were building a Amazon was building a, no, not Amazon. Meta was building a data center out there. So I was trying to go where I know jobs will be. Okay, so that's part another thing I want to share is how do you know where you're going to go buy? Well, obviously follow where the jobs are. Please utilize AI right now. I asked Claude, what's going on in Jeffersonville, Indiana? Then, I even asked, what's the rental market? What's everything there? Every time I buy a property, um, it sold for a higher price, but when I buy it, it's a lower price right now. Okay. So I bought it for $78,100. I think I bid, I can't remember. The reserve was like 100 grand because the last person that bought it was 120,000. I don't know. I ended up going, I didn't do 100. I got it for 78,000. Here's the good and the bad thing. When you get a hard money loan, they only give you renovation money no more than what you bought it for. I was like, shoot. I had to spend 108,000 for renovation. It went a little bit higher. They weren't going to give me $108,000. They can't give you more than what you bought it for. So it's kind of a good and a bad thing. Yeah, I bought it really cheap, but now I don't have the money. So guess what? Those credit cards came in handy here because now I went, I can't say I went over budget because I didn't. This house was kind of like, it was burnt down and it was ugly. So I'm not going to go show you the photos on it because it is on my Facebook page. After, doing the renovations and needed siding and then one of the DSCR loan said I had to put the deck, redo the deck. And if I didn't want to redo the deck, I had to shut the door on the second level. And so I had to go and complete and redo the deck, which cost me like another 8,000. So you kind of learn along the way, but if you're working with me and then you work with a lender, they kind of tell you what is needed, because when you get the appraisal done, the appraiser comes out and says, well, it needs this and this and this. So, when you work with other people, they can kind of give you a heads up what's needed. So yeah, I got a hard money loan. I think it was like 74,000. And so it cost me 78. And this guy, this lender, did a appraisal, so I had to pay like $700-800. So I kind of knew what it would appraise for later. So I think I did an appraisal, it was like 235, 245. The appraisal was done before I closed the escrow, right? So I know, and I comp it beforehand. Again, that's what helps me because I know how to comp. A lot of people don't know how to comp. So maybe I'll have another class on how to figure out what properties you can value properties because you need to know what the value is before you make a bid. So after I was ready, after 3 months, I refinanced. I closed escrow on like November 15th. That's how fast I'm in and out. Like I am refinanced and getting my money back out on day 90. Okay. So when you get your bridge loan, you can even do 6 months. You can do 9 months. A lot of them give you a 1 year, but if you go shorter, they save you a little bit in the rate. But this is interest only that you pay back immediately, like 30 days after you close escrow, you have to start making the interest payments. Okay. So you have to have some funds there to pay for it and the holding cost. So I ended up refinancing and I should have been more. I was fighting with this guy, but anyways, the appraised value came in at 260. So my appraisals always come in higher than what the initial hard money lender, because when they see a house and it looks nice and neat at the end, they tend to give you a higher value. And it's two different, one might be a real estate company or something, whoever that hard money lender uses. You cannot ask for certain appraisers and stuff like that, although I know how to do it with one of my other banks. I give the appraiser a heads up. He knows, but that's a brick and mortar bank. So $260,000 was the appraised value. This one, I got a 30-year fix, and this lender did not require seasoning. Now, what does seasoning mean? They want to see that you have it rented. But since it's been renovating, there's nobody living this property. They didn't require seasoning, so the maximum they would give me was 75%. So that's what 195,000 um of seven I'm sorry, 260,000 is the ARV, 75% loan to value came to 195,000, okay? So this number subtract by what my payoff is to the hard money lender, which includes the purchase price and the renovations. I was able to pay some of the contractors in escrow. So escrow paid directly to my guy who did the roof and my contractors who did the work inside. I cashed out $25,000 that I got at closing. Now, it's not like I made a lot of money. I had to buy $15,000 in furniture and stuff like that, okay? But I got my money back on that. Now, I still got 25% equity sitting in this property. So I'm considering getting a HELOC right now to take that 15% out, okay? However, now that I've done this, I found another strategy. My next deal, I'm not refinancing. I'm doing a stack method. I have a partner in that, so I bought it under my LLC. I'm going to sell it to my partner in another LLC. We'll do transactional funding, but we're going to take out our 20% equity. You guys understand that? Took me a while because I ended up doing that on one property where I couldn't flip it. I tried to refinance it. The appraiser gave me a very low price. I ended up having the seller, who is also my partner, sell it back to me. And we put a higher purchase price amount. Appraisers try to give you the value of what the purchase contract is. When you refinance, they don't care. They just give it whatever they feel like it because there's no purchase contract. It's a refinance. They kind of give you whatever they want. You can dispute it. So I say this because that property I refinanced, we needed 340. I said no problem because there was homes that sold for that. So I was hoping to get 340,000. I got an appraised value for 269. That was the refinance. So then couldn't use that same appraiser, left that lender, went to a different lender, made a contract for a sales price of 390 to buy. And I don't just make these numbers up, okay? Because there's sold comps in the area with homes like that. So I already knew what the value should have been. So that appraised value came back at 380. I had asked for 11,000 in seller credit to pay for all my closing costs. So then once I did that, I realized I'm like, shoot, I should just sell these properties back to myself or to my partner, one LLC to another LLC. That's how you extract the 20% equity. Okay. And then what is my exit strategy for this property? I used this for initially a midterm rental. It was supposed to give me $850 per room times 5. Again, I have to pay for all utilities, but the cleaning cost was like $200 per bedroom, so it was eating up into my profits. Now, I have a 30-year fix on this property. My mortgage and interest is only $1,297. So I was expecting to see 850 times 5. I was hoping to get 4,250 for midterm rental, renting as a co-living. I'm sorry, co-living, not midterm rental. Co-living is where you rent per room, right, to workers and stuff like that. And then instead of getting 4,250, I didn't want to spend all that money for the cleaning. So I had someone who wanted to rent the whole house, and I did it for $3,500 a month. I was making about $750 cash flow every month. No more money no more money, no more money of my own in the property. I already took it out in the refinance, okay? Everything is strictly infinite return, ROI. I have no money in it. Now, the mistake I have made in the past, and now I'm going to share it, is keep some money in the bank account for like 3 to 6 months reserves. I always took it out and I went and bought more property. That's why I have I bought 15 properties in 2 years, but I move way too fast. So that is my lesson learned. Leave some money in the reserves. So now, guess what I'm doing? I've changed my exit strategy. It's now going to be a sober living. So now moving forward, I don't want to make $500 a month cash flow. I want $2,000 cash flow. So how did I do it? I'm going to share, and I'm going to bring my partner in on another, episode, Zoom. But this is why I do sober living now. Now, don't get me wrong. I got lucky. I bought this house for $78,000. It already have 5 bedrooms. Sober living, you can put 2 twin beds per bedroom, and you charge $200 per week. That's like $1,600 per month per bedroom. Okay. So here's how you calculate this. I have 5 bedrooms, 10 beds in each room. One bedroom, the smallest one, is going to be for the house manager. So I give them a break at $100 per week. So I've got 10 beds times $200 times 52 weeks, because that's how many weeks in a year. That comes out to $104,000. And why do we do per week? Because you know what? You're trying to help people get back, on their feet. They may have not had a job. They were in recovery. They may have been homeless at some point, right? You help them find a job, but they can pay weekly versus monthly. Now, let's be conservative. 80% occupancy. I'm not going to go after 100% because there's people in, people out. So this is the number here. Total annual income, $88,400. This is my monthly expense. It's almost a year now since I've had it rented out. Well, I've rented out since November, right? That's when I refinanced. Then I put people in. This is my property taxes. Insurance is higher because sober living, you have $6,000 a year for insurance, but you have general liability and professional liability, $500. You pay for all utilities, another $500. That's my total expenses, $2,380. So my annual expenses is $28,571. So what is my net annual income? $59,828. Now, this is the net income with an operator that is a partner with me. So some of you may not have this operator. You may pay a different operator. But if you are the operator yourself, again, an operator is not a house manager. You don't live in this house. You're just running it. But you will have a house manager who lives there. And guess who this house manager is? It's somebody who's also gone through addiction or something, but you trust them. They've been sober for 3-6 months. They're going to run that house. They report to you. And then you can own multiple houses like this, like you're like the general manager of that area. But anyways, almost $5,000. So even if I split 50-50 with my partner, that's $2,500 versus the co-living that I was making $750. This house, I'm just converting. I gave the tenant, 30 days notice, so they're getting out. But this is for me going almost on 3 years now doing midterm rentals. Why I'm jumping over to sober living now? Because it's more cash flow. Sorry. I'm going to let you have questions afterwards. So that's where I'm going right now. It will cost me a little bit more money to buy some of the properties. I got lucky. This is still a good deal because I bought it for only 78,000. I just purchased one in Louisville for 258,000, but I get to have 6 bedrooms. So it all depends on the numbers. This is where the outcome is what makes you drive whether you want to buy a certain property. Sometimes you can go higher because you know the cash flow is going to come back higher. Okay. Okay, so that's it for the training today. This is module 1 and 2. I think I have like 9 or something, so I might have 5 more training classes or training Zooms. I'm going to open this up for questions. So if you want to unmute yourself, go ahead and ask. So I did it for like an hour on this. Okay, Cindy
Hey,
asked.
Jennifer,
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm just curious, like, are you doing Oxford House with your sober living, or you said you have your own operator? Where do you source your people?
So I've been doing sober living Zooms as well with my partner. He's been running. No, we don't do Oxford House because that is it's called peer-to-peer. It's a democracy, and that is those
Mhm.
people in there decide what they want to do. They are lately not paying their owners money, and it's more of so you're renting it to Oxford House, and then they pay you, and it's all about the money. People are overdosing and stuff like that. So, if you want to learn about sober living, I think we're going to have a Zoom tomorrow. I've been having that for like the last couple of weeks with my partner. And, you know, I want to share a little quick thing is because he ran 5 sober living homes in Philadelphia. And I didn't know this, but Kensington is that area. I mean, a lot of drugs. If you pull up Kensington, you see all these zombies all over the place because, they're half drugged out. But he started with rental arbitrage. A lot of people do this. There's a lot of people teaching how to do rental arbitrage. But what happened was during 2020, uh, the owner wanted to sell the property. And so he ran a business inside of this home. And so if you have an owner that wants to get rid of it, well, shit, you're screwed. If you do choose to do rental arbitrage, you have to put in your contract that you have the first right of refusal to be able to buy that house from them so you can continue because sober living in itself is a business. You know what I mean? It's a business in in a home. But right now, I own the home. I'm part of the business. I have my partner. I take care of all the acquisition. He takes care of all the operations. We will teach and we will share if you want to come in. Like the sober living is so needed, like all over. There's so many people with addiction and stuff. It's not going away. So there's not enough, so we're actually kind of hurrying up to open more. Like there's a female house because you have a female house and you have a male house. You don't put them together, okay? And so sorry, anyways, did I answer your
Is
question?
there a link that you have to watch the Zoom tomorrow?
It's live.
Like,
It'll be
how can we
live.
get a link?
I will post it. I didn't create one yet.
You'll what?
I'll create one and then I'll post it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
But do you have properties you own already? Because I don't suggest going learning about sober living unless you have a property right now and you want your exit strategy to be sober living. I just wouldn't try to keep learning so many different things. You know what I mean? I can help you with it. But yeah, I was just saying there's so many things to learn, unless you want to convert one into sober living. I don't even want to know how to do sober living on my own. Guess what? That's not why I have a partner because I'm learning every day, him doing it. I'm like, man, we should hire, like a TV crew and film all these people living these houses and all the crazy stuff that goes on there. It's a whole new like world in trying to do sober living. So like we're trying to train operators and linking them up with investors that want to be hands off. Okay. And you might have to do that. It's better because a lot of people are trying sober living, operating it themselves, and guess what? They have to go sell their house because they didn't do it right. So it's all about structure. Sober living, you're dealing with people and lives and relapsing, for drugs and stuff like that. You gotta drug test them, stuff like that. So anyways, they're like kids. You gotta tell them what to do. They gotta go clean your house. And so I don't have to we don't deal with cleaning fees anymore. Because you know why? All those people who live there gotta go clean the house and stuff like that. So I don't have any cleaning to do. Anybody else have a question?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes,
So
go ahead.
about the appraisal, do you appraise the house before you renovate it and after you renovate it, or how does that?
You will always have an appraisal when you refinance it. Okay.
Oh,
Because the lender is loaning you money. They want to know that the house is worth that price before they loan you the money.
right.
Before, bef before you buy it, I used to have the hard money lender do an appraisal, but now I found another lender that doesn't do that appraisal. See, so this is me on my journey finding different lenders. It's just like there's a lot of lenders out there. So they do I go on Zillow, I look up the value, and then I save the link, I look at the property, and then I send it to them as well, that the hard money lender, I tell them which home is a good fit, for that. And so they also ask me, and I provide them the sales comparables, and so I'll get into that more later to teach you if you don't know how to value a home. But it has to be the same square footage, some bedrooms, same count within 1 mile radius, the same year. And what appraiser does is they come out and they make adjustments to the price, So if you have more homes that sold, uh, and there's a lot of comps, it's, and there's only a 6 month window. You don't go for a year later, a mile or two away. See what I'm saying? So that's part of how to bid in another module. Okay.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Hey Jennifer, what was that clause that you were mentioning if someone's doing the rental arbitrage in case of a seller wants to sell and you're running the business out of that house?
Oh, you just say, number one, it's kind of hard. So when we are going to move forward with the consult, because we do sober living is a whole new thing. We're going to teach people how to be an operator. Some people want to just be operators, and then because of our network in sub two, you're in sub two, right? So because of our network in sub two, there's a lot of people getting out of Airbnb and midterm rentals, right? So then now they want to convert to sober living. They're looking for operators. So we're trying to teach operators to go into these investors, homes and run it for them. So again, there's training on that. But after you know me, there's no reason why you should be doing rental arbitrage on a property. Does that make sense? There's no reason
Absolutely.
why. You only do that because you don't know how to buy. So, anyways, but the clause would be, I'll rent from you, I'll pay you a certain amount of rent. They may get a few more $100, but it's very hard to get rental arbitrage because landlords don't want to rent to a group home and have all these people going in and out. I even tried. I sent like 20 emails out on Zillow ads because we needed a home immediately. Buying a REO was taking too long, and so my partner needed a house yesterday in Philadelphia because when he lost all his properties, all the people who are living in it know him and they want to live in his home, but he didn't have one. So we were trying to also do rental arbitrage. I sent out an email. I was very transparent of what I wanted. I got one guy email me back. Everybody else, guess what they do? They lie. They don't say they're doing sober living. So then they can get it rented. But if you get someone, you want to say, hey, if someone agrees to, you want to sign a 3-year contract. And then if they decide to sell, you get the first right of refusal to buy the property. So that's the word, the first right of refusal to purchase the property.
Would you say a 2-1, 2 bedroom, 1 bath would be ideal or no?
No, sober living has to be four and more.
4 or more? Okay.
Yeah, because if you have 2 beds, it's like
Right,
four
right. Yeah.
people, that doesn't
Hmm.
make any money. You're looking at, you know, at least 11 beds because you have to hire one house manager. A house manager takes over one room because there's a safe and drug testing kits, maybe money or something is locked up in a house manager's bedroom. So that's one bedroom already. You can't put him in the closet. I don't think that would work. So it's at least 4 bedroom. If there's a basement, make the basement, and you don't want to cram, like, you see everybody doing pad split? They are so crazy. The problem with pad split is they convert the living room and the dining room into a bedroom. So when the lender walks in, they're like, what the heck is this? But sober living homes, the living room and everything stays the same way. Because they want to sit there, have a meeting every Tuesday. They all meet, they all talk to each other, so yeah, you keep the house the same way. So minimum square feet, at least 1,900 square feet when you're buying these properties for sober living. And like 3, maybe maximum 4 person to 1 bathroom. I mean, even that's a lot because I know past it, man. That's where they cram everybody into that bathroom.
I'm sorry. What was that? You broke out on my end.
Oh, I was saying pad split. They cram so many people into a bathroom. They do 4 bedroom for 4 people to 1 bathroom. Like I have a 5'2", so the house that I accidentally fell into doing sober living was my flip that we couldn't sell, and it was 2,700 square feet, 5 bedrooms, 3 bath. It didn't have a garage. I'm in a great location, but that's why I couldn't sell it because I didn't have a garage. Sober living, you don't need a garage because nobody has cars. So you need to be by a bus stop. That's another way to make money is if you do Toro and you have a car for somebody to drive, and once you get certified, they pay for the transportation back and forth to the outpatient rehabilitation and stuff like that. As you see, if you're following the news, Medicare, Medicaid, all this fraud is, they're cracking down on all this fraud. And once all those people are out, if you're there, you're legit. Now you can take on all of the other houses. You know what I mean? That makes sense. Like all the people who are fraudulent are out, then there'll be such a need for your home and stuff like that. And it has to be single family, by the way, too, because I didn't know this, but when you're certified to get more referrals, they don't do multifamily. So you need to just be certified and have a residential house, and then you can just throw them in there to your multifamily properties and stuff like that. Anybody else have a question? I know I probably haven't gone into the weeds about how to buy the properties yet, right? But this is it's important to know how to set yourself up before you go buy. Because when you go buy and then you're at checkout, they're like, who you put it in? You're like, my name or something, and you just can't. You cannot put this in your name, especially if you're going to buy and hold. And you don't even want them to see the trail of the purchase to the refinance, because a good attorney can dig and say, hey, you own this in your name, so you just got to buy it outright in an LLC.
Hey Jennifer, I watched some of your stuff online on YouTube, and if I wanted to just practice looking at the auction.com site and stuff and seeing if I could find opportunities for you, what area would you recommend I would look in?
So we need Ohio, like around close to Cleveland. So I have a property in Mentor, Mentor, Ohio. You can look, I've been looking, there's nothing lately. I was gonna share any properties that says like Cleveland Heights, the HEI. I just found out I was in escrow, and some of these cities require what's called a POS, point of sale. I've never dealt with this before. Point of sale, so the city requires the buyer to get the city inspection, and then the city gives you a whole list of all the things that need to be repaired, and then you have to put 150% of the renovation money sitting in an escrow account. So I backed out of that one because that was ridiculous, you know. So, but sorry. So Southern Indiana, like I'm in Evansville, Louisville, Kentucky. Now, once you start getting familiarized with where to go buy, it's like anything. When I was in Detroit, shoot, you have to make sure block per block. I think Andrew is a firefighter. Shoot, if you buy, you have to have someone boots on the ground, because not only is it zip code on that block, you got to make sure which house is good and that. So then, like, I never ended up buying in Detroit. I ended up buying in outskirts, which is Warren, Michigan. So I totally forgot what the heck I was trying to say. Birmingham, Alabama. So, oh, sorry. You have to know where you're buying. It's like it's very that's why they say location is very important. Then you start to familiarize what's a good area and what's not. Like in Louisville, Kentucky, my boots on the ground people over there was like, okay, here's the freeway. You got to buy everything on the west side, not on the east side, you know, and I make them give me a list and a map to look, because there's lots of properties on these websites. But that doesn't mean they're all good. You see what I'm saying? Because you still want a good property, because the end result will be, if you ever were going to sell this property, you know, it needs to be in a good location. So you asked me, Birmingham, Alabama, Louisville, Kentucky, Southern Indiana, like Jeffersonville, Evansville, around Cleveland, Ohio. I'm now focused on, but I will buy and flip too. I'm looking at Philadelphia. Actually, if you can help me, I'll give you the zip codes: 19145 4648. 19145 4648. We need some for flipping. So what I try to do is I want to buy and hold as much as I can, but you also got to flip so that you can make some now money, you know, some to live off of. And these places, I have the contractors lined up already, you know, and that's the key, is your contractors who can go look at these properties for you. And I used to, the way I found people was through stuff too. I'm like, hey, I need some, I'll go search and I'll put in the city, and you'll see who works there. I tend to go after realtors first, because they can comp things for you, but screw the realtors. Sometimes they don't even know what the hell they're doing either. There's tons of them out there. So I will teach you how to comp something, how to look, because I don't have access to MLS in other states either. So what do? I gotta look on myself, and then I map things out, and you just pull out. I will teach that in another module, how to find comps. But you still need somebody to drive there, drive around the neighborhood, and get in the house. Somebody who's willing to crawl through the windows, okay? I'm serious. They have to do that. You don't want to do it? Okay, goodbye. You're not on my team.
So the flips, are they only in Philadelphia that you're looking for flips, or is it flips in any of the other areas you mentioned as well? Just to clarify.
No, anywhere, flips anywhere, and
Okay.
Philadelphia, we want to buy a house right now too, because he can place people. If you have a house in Philadelphia, because I don't know if you've been, I never looked at Philadelphia. There's row homes and stuff like that. And he wanted certain areas, like they do, like it's shocking. Like they can do 8 to 10 beds, and there's a university over there. So there's student housing you can do too. But my partner, and his name is Wilbur, some of you may know him. Again, when he lost his 5 properties, all those people there, he can fill these homes so fast. So that's why we haven't been able to buy any REOs. There's a few, and I lost one. And I say I lost it just because I don't have time to look at everything. So we have a few flips outside of the area. The bank wants a little bit more money, so I'm just waiting for it to age, so then they'll realize they have to sell it to us for a lower amount. Sometimes, so I'll share with you guys a spreadsheet, but you'll forget, like you'll see, I have so many states right now, and I put when I saw it, because it won't show you when it got listed, but they list, if nobody bids for these auctions, it's weekly. Every week it comes back on, it comes back on. So you won't know when they started, but you only know when you first saw it. Does that make sense? And it could be like, then you go back, hey, this is still here. And then when you save it, it will send you an email and say, oh, this property you saved, here's the, I don't know, reserve price reduced. So there's properties there sometimes 5, 6, 7 months. And then something else that happens is these are just platforms to sell something on. Sometimes they remove it from one platform and then they go on to another website. And then so it'll disappear. So the other day I forgot to bid higher, and my partner wanted it, and I'm like, yeah, the show's canceled. You know what? So it's gonna go and appear maybe on HUDHomestore.com or something. So I don't know where it's going, but now I can't bid. And it's not like you can go reach out and go, hey, I like to buy it. People always think, yeah, let me call the bank. And I'm like, no, you can't call the bank. They're not gonna tell you. You can't go reach them and try to buy it. So yeah. Any other questions?
What are the main sites that you check again? Auction.com, and then there was another one you said, I think.
Zome.com, XOME.com.
Oh, that's right. Yep, you mentioned
Service,
that on your video that I watched,
service.
the
Well,
YouTube.
okay, my old videos, I didn't know about Service Link until later, so I bought 2 from them, but it's called ServiceLinkAuction.com. And then there's Hubzoo.com, which I've never bought from, but I don't know. They have a lot of properties. I just don't know. I just haven't bought anything from them yet. And I'm pretty sure there's a few more. And then you can also search properties before they're going to go in foreclosure. But those are just longer wait times. And you can go to the county website, and then they have a section called sheriff's sale. And you can research from there, because they will have pre-foreclosures too on these websites. But we're focusing on second chance foreclosures and bank-owned properties. Okay, because there's other people selling their homes on here, like short sales, for sale by owner. You don't want to look at those things. You want to look at bank-owned properties. But they will market pre-foreclosures on there as well. And again, I keep my spreadsheet. I have a section that says pre-foreclosures, the date is going to auction, and then the ones that are bank-owned. So when the date that they go to auction, guess what can happen? It can get canceled. They file bankruptcy, whatever, and then it gets moved another 30 days out. And sometimes I do look at pre-foreclosure, because you know what I do? I have my contractor drive by. Sometimes these people leave the home before it's foreclosed, but they don't lock their doors. So you can go in, drive by at night, see if there's any lights on, knock on the door, talk to the neighbors, get in that property. You know what? I know they always try to say trespassing is unlawful, but How come they always let the squatters go in? Not that you're a squatter, so how about you go in and take a look? You're gonna try to make the property look nicer by buying it as an investor. I just hope my company doesn't hear me say those things.
I want to see the video of you crawling through the window.
Actually, when I don't crawl through the window, I fit, but so when I
Oh,
went out to Indiana, I think one of my contractors crawled through the doggy door, so it was a big door.
oh my gosh. I would
Um,
totally be doing it with you. But I just think it's funny.
I mean, these other states are nicer. California, I have to carry my gun because there's so much, there are squatters out there. I mean, in Indiana, people do have guns out there too. So you just have to knock on the door and, but I like that state because when people get foreclosed on or they are foreclosed, they move, they leave, and they leave appliances there for you. But they actually leave the property. But good luck on California, some of these other states that are not landlord friendly. They will hunker down and be in there forever. So you may have to do the tactic of cash for keys to get them to get out. Okay, it's 7:40, so I guess some of the people that went off, they have to work in the morning. If there's anybody else that has any questions, I can answer your questions, Cindy, and I'll stop recording. But if no one else has any questions, I'll post the next training. It'll be this week again. I'm gonna try to get this done quickly. And yeah, next one will be good and get you going. But if you guys want to really do this, I'm here to help you, walk you hand in hand. I've got the lending, I've got all this other spirits. You just have to want to do this. And it's I want to say it's not hard because I guess I've been doing it for a while, but you will own a property in your name. Okay, this is not subject to or anything like that, and you're buying it super dirt cheap. The reason I didn't do subject to is because I saw the entry fee 40, 50 grand. I'm like, yeah, I buy a property for 40, 50 grand, and it's mine, not subject to 50,000 entry fee. And then you still got to deal with the seller. So that's the difference why I did it. I bought bank-owned properties and stuff. Okay, ready? I'll have a good night and get into my Facebook group, Bank Owned Properties, so that I can start sharing more stuff there. All right, good night, everybody.
Good night.